Well, hello and welcome to the Below the Rim YouTube channel, basketball related channel where we try to bring you informative and entertaining, hopefully, basketball videos related to British basketball. Now, the first one we're going to do, I don't know hardly anything about European basketball. I'm sorry. My main man Daz on the show, my main man Josh, also obviously a European basketball commentator as well, have got me more and more into the game. So I thought I'd do a little bit of research and have a look at some of the first British teams to play in the European competition. Okay, so like I said, I know nothing about European basketball. I knew not the difference between the Campions League, the Euroleague, the ULEB League trophy. So I thought, like I said, I'd read up. Now, most people are probably aware of the Kingston Kings and their relative success in the European competition, which is something we'll get to in a later episode. But I wanted to dive further into the unknown of British basketball's march on Europe. It took a fair bit of diving, and I will credit all the resources I used to find out what I found out. But let's find out which British club was the first to throw their hat into the European ring. Initially, no one. The FIBA European Champions Cup, as it was back then, started 1958, the winners of which were CSKA Riga, then Russian, now Latvian, after they were given a bye to the final when the Francoist Spanish government would not allow Real Madrid to travel to then Soviet Riga. They defeated the Bulgarian champions Academic Sofia 86-81 and then 84-71 in front of over 17,000 fans in the two-legged affair, behind the impressive scoring of Janis Krumins, 32 points in the first leg, and the expertise of coach Alexander Gomileski. But no British teams. 1959 then, the second Champions Cup, and still no Brits. But a repeat of the final from last year, with Riga once again seeing off the Bulgarian champs 79-58 and then 69-67 in the Vasil Levski's football stadium in front of over 20,000 fans. This is incredible. Once again, behind their centre and MVP, Janis Krumins, with 27 points per game. But still no British teams. Now, at this stage, I realise it's not taking me very long to read these out, but at this stage I hit the internet a little bit harder and found a team claiming to be the first ever to play in a European competition. And they are the Boromir Blaze, a team from Edinburgh, Scotland. They claim that 1967 was the first time any British team would enter the competition, or any European competition. But was it? Well, out of interest and boredom, but mainly interest, I carried on with my year-by-year analysis of the European Champions Cup and made a discovery. 1960 we're up to. Still no Brits, but another win for CSKA Riga, seeing off fellow Russians DYNAMO Tbilisi. Riga would once again rally around their star centre, Janis Krumins, who fouled out in the first leg but poured in 28 points in the second leg to secure victory. 1961 now, and the Riga partnership of coach Alexander Gomileski and star player Janis Krumins would be put to the test. They faced Real Madrid in the semi-final, which was a highly anticipated game after Real Madrid pulled out of the semi-finals in 1958. Riga would lose the first leg 78-75 as Real managed to keep Janis Krumins under 20 points. The second leg, however, would be a totally different affair. Janis Krumins scored 26 as the three times reigning champs brushed aside Real Madrid 66-45. However, in the final, Riga finally ran out of steam when they come up against the massive CSKA Moscow, who blew out Riga in the first leg 87-62 in front of 15,000 fans. Riga would win the second leg 66-61, but it would be the end of Europe's first basketball powerhouse and player, as Janis Krumins could only manage 10 points per game in the finals. CSKA, however, would make it 4 Soviet titles in 4 years, but still no Brits in the competition. So we turn our attentions to 1962. And, wait a minute, a British team?
Say what?
Well, despite Boromir Blaze's claim to the title as the first team to play in Europe, 1967, there seems to be a challenger to that. Stand up, the Belfast Celtics. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Belfast is the capital of Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland, I believe, is a part of Great Britain. even back then. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think this is a new claim to the first British club in a European basketball competition. How did they do? Not great, but the All-Irish champions, behind coaches Christy Walsh and Jim Dunn, and high scorers Noel Nugent and Dennis Rochford, would lose to an Antwerp team that would go on to make the Elite Eight. The champs this year would be yet another Soviet side and former finalist DYNAMO Tbilisi, who defeated Real Madrid 90-83 in the first ever single-legged final held in the neutral venue of Patinoire des Vernet, Geneva, Switzerland, due to political instability at the time. So there we are. The Celtics, Belfast, not Boromir Blaze, were the first British team in European basketball competition, but was definitely not a one-off. 1963 now, the Celtics would once again be All-Irish champs and would once again be in European Champions Cup. This time, they would come up way short, suffering a 44-101 defeat at home and a 31-115 defeat at the hands of Alas de Bagnolet, the French champs that would go on to be no stranger to European basketball. It wasn't the same team that had put on a good show the previous season, but the Celtics were nonetheless there again, twice now. The final was back to the two-leg setup and provided to be an epic finale. In the Fronton Fiesta Alegre, Spain, Real Madrid, coached by Joaquim Hernandez, cheered on by football legends Puskas and Alfredo Di Stefano, would take a commanding lead in the first leg over CSKA Moscow, going up 17 points, 86-69, behind 26 points from Carlos Silvano and Emilio Rodriguez, who added 24. CSKA Moscow, with their backs against the wall, managed a heroic comeback in the second leg, winning at the Sportivij Palace, Sporting Palace, 91-74, behind an all-round team performance. Mathematicians among you will notice that this is now a draw. No away points, not in this league, no overtime for that matter. The Champions Cup this season will go to a tie-break to be played at the Sportiv Palace in Moscow once again in 2 days' time, in front of the same 20,000 fans. This proved to be a little anticlimactic for the neutral fan, but not for the home team fans, as Gennadiy Volnov hit Real for 26 points in a 99-80 win for the now two-time champion CSKA Moscow, and once again a Soviet team winning the European Champions Cup. On to 1964, and the 7th European Champions Cup. Hang in there. It's the Celtics again, having a crack at some kind of European glory. They had an unfortunate draw, however, semi-finalist from the previous year, Real Madrid. And according to coach and founding father Eamon Brennan and players Michael Brennan and Alan Moneypenny, although the record books state there were 4,000 to 8,000 packed into the King's Hall, Belfast, there were actually over 11,000 fans on hand to watch the Celtics and one of the best European teams around. Ferenc Puskas and Alfredo Di Stefano were once again on hand to watch from courtside, as they were in town to play Northern Ireland in the European Champion qualifier for football, two top footballers at the time. Now, despite a massive 35 points from Warren Brown, the Celtics came up short against the eventual Champion Cup winners, 73-102, so not a complete disgrace. That was at home. Away, they didn't do so well, 107-46, but it marked a historic event in the history of Irish basketball and, of course, British basketball. So, as stated, the eventual winners were Real Madrid, and they would do so at home in some style. They'd lose the away leg by 1 point to Czechoslovakian TJ Spartak ZJS Brno. 100-99. Vladimir Pistolek would score 28 for the home team and Emilio Rodriguez with 31 for the visitors to keep it close. The second leg, however, would belong to the Spanish Giants. Now, they only led by 4 at half-time, but they would rally behind Emiliano Rodriguez with 28 points and Clifford Leuk with 25 points, winning 84-64. And would be the first team outside Soviet control to win the European Champions Cup. Wow. Right, couple more. 1965. It uncovered something else interesting. So the Scottish Edinburgh-based Boromir Blaze claimed to be the first in Europe and were potentially out by 5 years. But not only that, England would have its first taste of European basketball in the form of Central YMCA London. They would come up against the French champions Asvel Basket Villeurbanne. London would come up short in their first dip into European basketball, Despite only losing by 8 points at home, they were hammered 91-40 away in front of 5,000 French fans. But if you think that's bad, our old friends the Celtics were back again as Irish champs, and a new look coach and a completely new team. They would lose away at Reykjavik 71-17. A bit more respectable at home, 63-47, but not their best outing in this competition so far. The competition would be a repeat for Real Madrid and a chance to exact revenge over the team that beat them a few years prior, CSKA Moscow. No tiebreaker would be needed this time, although it was a close affair. CSKA Moscow took their home leg in the Sportiv Palace in front of 15,000 fans. They won 88-81. Behind the now legendary Gennady Volnov, who scored 22. Clifford Lyack scored a game-high 30 for the visitors to keep things in touch. The second leg in the Fronton Vista Algar, Spain, in front of 5,000 fans would belong to the Spanish Giants. They took it 76-62 and once again behind the scoring of Emiliano Rodriguez with 24, giving them a 7-point advantage over the two legs and Real their second European title. Wow. Okay, deep breath, we're almost done. We'll finish with 1966, the year before Boromir Blaze would be the first British team to play in Europe. Well, it turns out they're not the first, not the second, not the third, but potentially the fourth team.
Say what?
Stand up, the Aldershot Warriors. The Celtics would be there again, although now going by the name Belfast Collegians. They wouldn't have a great deal more success, losing on aggregate 152-84 to French champions AS Denain Voltaire, with George Clark managing 22 points in the first leg. The Warriors, their first time in Europe. They would also struggle. They are a combined forces team based in Aldershot, and their first throw of the dice in European basketball, they would face the Belgian champions Racing Basket Mechelen. The Warriors would be competitive in the first leg in the Fox Gymnasium. They lost 83-113 behind some good scoring from Pete Harrison with 23 points. But 31 points from Ron Laneski would see the Belgians take a big advantage to the Groentagel. The Warriors again were not a complete disgrace, losing 161 with the Mechelen's big scorers Theo Hillen with 31 and Willie Steveniers with 26. The Dubs' own Arthur Judge would manage 20 points, but it would not be enough. The format of the competition had changed a little. The quarter-final stage, or Elite 8, was now group stages with two groups, the top two from each group going into the final four. This year, however, saw the first time that the semi-finals and finals would no longer be played over two legs, but one-off knockout stages, including a third and fourth playoff at the end. This year, the Final Four elimination tournament would be played in Italy, and it would be an Italian team, Cimathal Olimpia Milano, that would emerge victorious at the Palazzo dello Sport in Bologna, against the favourites and Czech champs TJ Slavia vs Praha, who toppled the reigning champions Real Madrid in the group stages. The Milan side would make the most of being on home soil and take it 77-72 in a close-fought contest, with their star player of the time, Gabriele Vianello, scoring 21, making them the first Italian team to win the European Champions Cup. What a lot to get through. So we started 1958, we're up to 1966. We haven't reached Boromir Blaze yet, who claimed to be the first British team in Europe, 1967. But we have had the Belfast Celtics, 1962. We've had the Central YMCA London, 1965. We've had Aldershot Warriors, 1966. I mean, British basketball, they didn't necessarily cause many waves, shall we say, in European basketball to start with, but they were there. They were the champs of their respective leagues, national leagues, all Irish teams, and they were there. They were in the European Champions Cup, which basically evolved into what we now know as the Champions League. Plus, we had our very first ever, could you say dynasty? I don't know if dynasty is a three-peat. They were there for maybe 5 years. They were knocking around at the top. ASK Riga with their star centre, Giannis Krumins. What a start to the competition it was for Russia. They won the first 6 competitions. Real Madrid emerged then as one of the top teams as well. but British teams from 1962 have been in the European competition. Now, this is the first part, and thank you for watching to the end if you've made it to the end. I can understand if you didn't. The next parts, we're going to go on. So we're going to go 66. We've done 66. We do 67, 68, 69, right up through the ages. I do have to admit at this point, my initial idea was to just do some deep dive and a breakdown of the game that Kingston Kings played against AS Aris Thessaloniki. But it's led me on to look at the first teams to play in Europe, and I wanted to share the information with you good people. Quite interesting findings. I was initially shocked, I've got to be honest, when I saw the claim that Edinburgh, the Boromir Blaze were the first teams in European competitions at any level. Because let's not forget, we're going to do Cup Winners' Cup as well, the Korak Cup, the ULEB Cup. They're all slightly related. It's all a bit incestuous in that sense. What a stupid thing to say. Well, I'm going to keep that in. Anyway, we're going to go through all those things, all those bits and bobs, and yeah. See you again. Take it easy. We'll speak to you soon.